Morning, KW Milwaukee. It's a beautiful day on October 14th. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great day. Great day to be alive. So, a couple things to think about as we head into this morning. One, I will forewarn you, I have a lot of stuff to go over today. It'll be quick hitters, but there's just a lot of information. Two, it would not be a Milwaukee sports playoff run without lessons from a run. I've talked about the Olympics. We've done Packers. I think I went overboard during the Bucks run, but I think it's appropriate because it might be the only championship. But I have some really good lessons for you today. I think they're pretty good. Hopefully you think they're pretty good. And then I'll finish with some market insights. Last week I went deep into the local insights. This week I kind of have three quick things just to talk about from a macro picture. What's going on with the government in the shutdown? How does it impact our business? Things you should be paying attention to and things you don't need to be worrying about. And we'll wrap. And we have some interesting insights for you as the KW app. Cool? I don't know. Bunch of stuff to go over today. So mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. I'd say our goal is to reiterate is to be known as the premier brokerage offering unparalleled experiences that continues to enrich our agents and communities that we serve at Keller Williams Milwaukee. And we offer custom tailored experiences that empower agents to grow and achieve success while having fun. And I think that shows up and is interwoven into everything that we do or that we try to do every single day because one, it's about who we serve. It's about the communities that we serve, but also not losing sight of the fact that you can have fun doing it too. And hopefully you'll see a little bit of that here this morning. Just as a quick reminder, this week, Thursday, is Cindy Kuss's celebration of life. It's Thursday, 4:30. Hope to see you there. All right, moving on. So admittedly, every year we participate in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's top workplaces. And surprisingly, we've been number one 4 years in a row. To the point, I'll tell you a little quick sidebar story that I actually find kind of funny. About 3 weeks ago, we hosted a combined Milwaukee ALC. And we had about 70 people for lunch downtown at the Milwaukee Athletic Club. And we hosted the executive vice president from Quick Trip to come and talk about community and culture. The funny backstory to that is we've been trying to get John come and speak to our group for actually several years. And he had politely declined for several years because we kept beating Quick Trip in the top workplaces survey. And he said, "What do you need me to come speak to us? Maybe we need you to come speak to us." I said, "No, John, it'd be great if you came to us." And I got to give a shout out to Mandy. Mandy called in a connection and a favor to her uncle up in La Crosse who works at Quick Trip in order to deliver that for our ALCs, which is really cool and a very unique opportunity. But with that, some of you may have received emails or texts from Energage. The Energage survey is now live. Last year, there were 300 plus businesses that participated in the survey. It's cross-function. It's not just real estate. And we've been very, very fortunate to finish number one across all industries for the last several years. And so I just wanted to send a reminder out for two things. One, don't bullshit me. Give your honest feedback. We use the feedback more so as a benchmark, how our people view our culture and community. We don't get the individual results. We get a consortium of results. So it's all blended together. We don't see the individual responses. But wanted to make you aware that survey is now live for the 2026 top workplaces. Note that it comes from Energage. It might be associated to Juniper Real Estate LLC, which is doing business as Keller Williams MKE. The survey takes 5 minutes or less. All the responses are confidential. And the one caveat I would tell you is they try to trick you to see how quickly you're going through it, and they make double negatives to make a positive. So be on the lookout for the double negatives make a positive just in your survey responses, but would just ask for your honest feedback. We take the survey results we hold it very near and dear in terms of the way that you view our environment, and we use it as a benchmark as it relates to how we look at talent. Kind of a foreshadow to what we'll be talking about here in a second. All right, with that, a handful of people we'd love to celebrate in terms of those who capped in the month of September. So jumping right into it. First up, over in our innovation office, has been doing incredible work with KG, used to be in tech, used to be in corporate America, and has continued to bet on herself. Congrats to Heather Banks for capping in the month of September. Next up, here's the definition of, as a coach, it's kind of a weird analogy, but it'll make sense. Every team needs a multitude of pieces in order for it to be successful. And when I played hockey, you wanted a guy that was willing to go into the corners and grind for the puck. And this guy is the definition of a grinder, and every team needs a grinder, just willing to do the activities in order to have success. Congrats to Zach Dolney for capping in the month of September. All right, next up over in North Shore, as I say with any of my family members, the standard is the standard. Congrats to Maggie Drain for capping in the month of September. Next up, over in Prestige, an incredible individual with, exuberant energy that every time you see him, you want to give him a hug, and he just gives, you're better for the energy that you get from him, and I would encourage you to get to know him because he's an incredible person. Brian Eggers, congrats for capping in the month of September. Next up, this person recently had a relocation because of his wife's job, and he continues to work his business despite the fact that he actually lives in New Jersey. Chris Fenice, congrats for capping in the month of September. Next up, similarly, another person that you're better off for every interaction you have, an incredibly positive person. Has been really kind of a breath of fresh air over in the innovation office from the standpoint of like the energy that team brought last year when it came in. Congrats to Colleen Grams for capping in the month of September. Next up, this is the definition of leadership is how do you affect others to make the best version of themselves. And this person's doing it through their team over in Madison. Congrats to Josh Holt for capping and leading in the month of September. Next up, she is running around with her hair on fire, but absolutely making the world go round for her and her family, doing big things with what it is that she's accomplishing. Congrats over in Lake Country to Jean Jaskowski for capping in the month of September. Next up, a handful of people more to celebrate. In the month of September, I'm pretty public about this. This person's kind of like a spiritual advisor to me across a multitude of things in life. Is a great sounding board, and I think it's a great sounding board for a variety of other folks as well. Congrats to Annie Jerzyk for capping in the month of September. Next up, this starts a trend that you will see across the cappers in the back half of those that we're celebrating, but she does it with her husband, does it with her son, is in a family business, and exudes the way that families can work together. Congrats to Mercedes Lumens over in Prestige. Next up, another husband-wife over in Lake Country, former college athlete, shows how athletes can really compete within not only their world of sport, but in the world of business. Congrats to Matt and Angie Lozanacki over in Lake Country. All right, 5 more. Next up, she's just a fun spirit, been around for a while, has a little bit of that Bayview mojo to her, but lives in Mequon, and I call her Julie Litkin. Congrats to Julie Litkin. All right, this person, when he came over to KW, he was on a morphine drip, and we had to help him understand that the morphine drip was not the most highest and best use of his capital. And he has really built an incredible team, has an admin, understood leverage, left the banking world in order to build a big business. Congrats to Ethan Masson for capping in the month of... And I should clarify when I say the morphine drip, if you haven't heard that analogy before, he built his business on Zillow leads, and we helped him wean off the Zillow leads. I realize not everybody understands what that means. Congrats, Ethan. All right, next up over in Lake Country, a great example of someone who was in corporate America, quit their job, who was making an incredible income, put all the chips on their table and went all in, and is doing incredible work. Congrats to Angela Palmer for capping in the month of September. Next up over in North Shore on the FRG team, quite frankly, the pinnacle of health. Like, this woman is a badass. I actually have learned a lot from her in talking with her, and also really building a business through her partnership with FRG. Congrats to Ellie Valters for capping in the month of September. All right, 2 more. Next up, over on PHG, who just celebrated the 100 milli milestone between Chicago and Milwaukee, and this person's absolutely played a part in helping them build their business in Milwaukee. Congrats to Alicia Wiedmeyer for capping in the month of September. And then lastly, over in Lake Country, kind of the nose to the grindstone, similar theme, family business, husband and wife that can work together and build something really special. Congrats to Mike and Laura Zadig for capping in the month of September. So I actually think it was really appropriate to celebrate cappers today because there are some lessons I want to share with you from a recent interview that I saw. And I've been saving this for the right moment, and it feels very appropriate to share it with you around lessons from Murph. And if you aren't paying attention, the Brewers are in the National League Championship Series, which is the Final Four for baseball. To put a little context to it, their payroll is $120 million this year. The Dodgers' payroll is $350 million. Last night, the Dodgers had 3 players playing in the game that made more money this year than the entire Brewers payroll combined. The Brewers also operate in the second smallest Major League Baseball market. And for those of you that don't know from a business perspective, unlike the other major sports, baseball doesn't have a salary cap. So the biggest markets can afford to pay the biggest players. And yet, what's been fascinating to watch from a baseball perspective are the lessons that you can learn from a leadership perspective around culture, community, and people, and how it can deliver results in your organization. And I share this with you because the Brewers this year finished with the best record in baseball. Last year, they won the Central Division pennant, and Murph won Manager of the Year. And quite frankly, if he doesn't win it again this year, it would be highway robbery. And you look at it and you say, okay, what causes someone to work in an environment to deliver achieve unbelievable success consistently over time? And I've been paying attention to what's going on. And ironically, several of them live in and around the Whitefish Bay area. Matt Arnold, who's the GM of the Brewers. Matt Hudgens, who's the assistant GM. Ironically, Craig Counsell. But my point to it is like, what has caused this sustained success in an organization when the odds are stacked against them? And so I'd like to share with you an interview that Bob Costas did with Murph recently. And I recapped some of the notes for you because I find them incredibly appropriate as you think about your 2026 planning. And we're on a playoff run. So I'd share with you this.
Much has been made this year about how fundamentally sound the Brewer team is. Here you are, 30th market out of 30 teams. You lose Devin Williams. You lose Corbin Burns a year before that. You lose Willie Adames. You have the best record in baseball as we sit here. And now it isn't just the eyeball test. There's actually metrics that can measure a lot of this stuff. You don't lose a lot of runners on the bases. You take the extra base. You're very good fundamentally on defense. All the defensive metrics are at or near the top. You don't swing at pitches outside the strike zone as much as many teams do. All these little things have added up to a great record.
That's true. You know, I tend not to look at the big picture very often during the season. But I hear those things and I say, fundamentally sound. Are you kidding me? They're not watching the game I'm watching. You know, or great on the bases. Really? Like, I just watched a guy over on third last night get picked off.
And now Frelick is going to be out at third.
He's the it on our team. You know, he's the dude that represents, like, this is how you play the game. Like, really? You know? But what we have that people aren't understanding, I think, as much is we have the right people.
It's about the voice. Let's go. Okay, man. Jack. Come on.
And we all got to follow the analytics. We all have to follow the data. I mean, that'd be crazy not to. It's information. But it's about people. The success that people think we're having It's about the who. And the who is everything for me.
So you mentioned a guy overrunning third base.
So in the first segment I want to share with you, here's what Murph shared with you that I think it correlates to our business. You have to obsess over the details. You have to obsess over the details. There's a lot of details in our business, and you have to obsess over them because people are paying you to obsess over the details. 2, and I think sometimes we get caught in the rat race within this business. You have to focus on your small moments. Focus on your small moments. Don't get lost in the big picture, because intense focus on small moments builds to achieving big results. And too often we get focused on what's my next goal? What's my next achievement? What is the striver's curse within this business? What is the next milestone I'm trying to achieve? And I think what you heard from Murph there in the 90-second clip was focus on the small moments. You have to follow the analytics and data because they're the vital signs of any business. Interestingly enough, I'll tell you a side story. So Matt Hudgens, who's the number 2 assistant GM behind Matt Arnold, is a friend of mine. I asked Matt, this is probably last Christmas, we had dinner together. I said, hey, what makes Murph special? He said, here's the truth. Murph doesn't actually make any baseball decisions. Every day, every game, I hand him a 3x5 card that he puts in his back pocket that gives him all the analytics and the data. And when certain situations comes up, all Murph has to do is look at the vital signs in order to make the right move. Murph's superpower is that he is exceptional at impacting people and building culture and community. And he goes, the key to the success of our organization is how we blend the analytics and the data and the human side of how do you create a clubhouse where people can strive to succeed. When you have people that are from all over the world, and quite frankly, not everyone speaks the same language, but there is total alignment to what the mission is. And so my job, and this is Matt Hudgens says, my job is to make sure that my department looks at the analytics and the data and gives Murph the lineup every night, and to make sure that we're pulling the right strategic moves at the right moments based on what the data tells us. Murph's job is to cultivate the clubhouse. And I think you hear that in what Murph says at the end of that, where he says, at the end of the day, it's about people. The who is everything. Now I'd like to share with you a second segment of this conversation with Bob Costas. And this is around leadership and how do you get your team in alignment, moving in the same direction.
Every coach or manager I've ever talked to about this has said, if your best guy buys in, it makes your job so much easier. You think of Torrey's Yankees. Derek Jeter bought in. Derek Jeter exemplified everything Joe Torre wanted him to do.
His picture's on my wall.
Jeter.
And I met him when I recruited him out of high school, but I've never talked to him since. But I admire him because he wasn't the most talented, but he was so effective in how he affected others. And see, I see Yelich, different personality, but still reserved, quiet, not look at me at all. Yelich affects Terang, and he affects Frelick, and he affects Joey Ortiz and Perkins. That's leadership. He doesn't have to stand up and talk. He does when he needs to, but he leads this club. He's way more important than I am, way more important.
So you got Yelich buying in, but Ken Rosenthal recently wrote that one of the keys may be that you've got a larger number than most teams of guys who are not yet eligible for arbitration, aren't making $1 zillion, and so maybe they're more receptive to being corrected than a star would be?
For sure. I call them cliffhangers. We got a bunch of guys that have to check if their nameplate's still up on the locker every day. And that's kind of cool, and they are more receptive. But I'm not treating them like little boys. I'm just really honest with them about things. And if you can't handle trying to help this club be better and yourself being better, then we're gonna have a conflict. And conflict's okay. They might not like me. My call list and contact list is very deep. I don't need new friends. You know what I mean? I just want them to play good, try to have them find their best self. And I might not be the most effective guy for them. I don't know, but I'm going to be myself.
So here's what I'd share with you in terms of what Murph shared and how we correlate it to what it is that we do and how we run our businesses and our lives. Here's Murph's comments on leadership. Getting your best player to buy in makes your job so much easier. Getting your best player to buy in makes your job so much easier. Whether you run a team or lead a team, you have a best player. If you're an individual agent, you want to know who your best player is? Your spouse or your partner. When you get your best player to buy in, it makes your job so much easier. Murph on leadership, be effective at affecting others. Be effective at affecting others. It's the definition of leadership. And if you can't handle trying to help the organization get better and yourself get better, we will have conflict. We will have conflict. So as you think about your 2026 plans and how do you correlate it to the Brewers' success, despite all the odds against them, second smallest market, a payroll of only 120 million when they're playing a team of 350 million, you got to set a vision. You have to get buy-in to create alignment, most especially with your best players. And you have to think about the players on your roster more holistically than just the person on the left of you and the right of you. It could also mean who your plumbing contractor is, who your electrical contractor is, those you rely on in order to continue to move your business forward. And you have to be effective at affecting others. And I leave you with that point because the way you win business is when someone says, yes, I want to work with you. The way you do that is by the way you affect them. Make sense? I think there's incredible leadership lessons through the world of sport. The art of competition, the pressure it creates, how it elevates people to achieve results they never thought were possible are absolutely exceptional, and it lives everywhere. The last comment I would make to that is it is amazing how people from a variety of different backgrounds, beliefs, socioeconomic statuses create unity during moments of sport. And there are a lot of lessons to be learned around what the unity that sport brings people together to, and that how we carry ourselves and live ourselves moving forward in a world that seems incredibly ever divisive and divided. And so I love the art of sport because it brings people together where you're hugging the person and spilling a Miller Lite on them. And if you were talking politics, you might have punched them. But sport brings people together. There's so many lessons to be had in it. And those were some of the things that I've learned through the Bob Costas interview and some of the conversations I've had in the community. Cool? Things to think about heading into 2026. Lastly, I'll leave you with this as it relates to how you think about it. And this is a quote I've shared with you often. And this is where I think there's total alignment between what Murph's just shared and what we believe in terms of how we try to operate the business. Is effectively when people ask us at the end of the day, they're like, what is Keller Williams? And I'm like, we're a personal development company. We just happen to sell homes. We are a personal development company that happens to sell homes because the pursuit of extraordinary performance and the pursuit of the best life possible are the same path. And that's what Murph shared with you in the last segment. So there you have it. Leadership lessons from an NLCS playoff runs. All right. So I'm going to switch gears here. And I got to give this group a lot of credit. Last week, Tuesday alone, we have 300 downloads out of a 700-person environment, 300 downloads of our new KW Milwaukee app. If you haven't played with it yet, if you aren't one of the 400, you should. Because I'm going to highlight for you some of the features within the app, and we're going to continuously layer the features in as to not to overwhelm you, but also I understand that there is an element of trust but verify, and I will explain here in a second. So here's the first feature I want to highlight for you if you haven't really totally dove in or dug into the app, and I got to give a shout out to our team, especially Nikki Kunick, who did this on one take.
Once you've downloaded the app from the App Store, go ahead and click into it and toggle at the bottom over to the calendar. Here, you can search for anything that you might be looking for that would normally appear on our training calendar. Once you found it, like Tuesday team meeting, go ahead and click it and add to your calendar. It'll pop up just like it would on a computer. Go ahead and click save at the top. Once you've saved it, it shows that it's saved to your Google Calendar.
You want to know anything that's going on in our environment, including the blood drive that happened last week Friday or open house opportunities? It's within the app. Now, here's the second part of the app that I will show you, and Nikki so graciously showcased for us in our next video, is the AI function as it relates to the rules, regulations, and contracts within our business is, quite frankly, exceptional. Again, we spent 3 months testing this, breaking it, and rebuilding it. And
Once you've downloaded the app,
here's what I would share with you. Yesterday, we had an agent who asked a very, very specific question around a 1031 exchange and needed some specific language for a contract. They asked the app. They then said, ooh, this answer sounds 100% correct, but I trust it. I need to verify it. They called our compliance broker. The compliance broker was unaware that they asked the question in the app. And the compliance broker that gave the answer around the specific language to the agent around the 1031 exchange was precisely exactly the same, which is somewhat scary, but also somewhat cool as hell, right? So here in this video, Nikki showcases a lot of questions we get around the rules and regulations associated to delayed listings.
Then you can go back to the home screen, toggle over to ask, and this is where you're going to ask any question that you would think about calling one of our compliance brokers about. For example, here we're asking, what is Metro MLS's rules regarding advertising of a delayed listing? This is a question we get quite often, actually. So go ahead and type something like this into it. It'll start thinking, and then it'll spit out all of the rules about advertising a delayed listing that you can read through. Sometimes the answers are quite long. As you can see, this one has 4 parts to it. And sometimes it's a quick answer, but you can simply scroll through and get the information that you're looking for. Once you've got this information, you can move ahead, and you could also verify with a broker if you need to. These are just 2 of the features of the app, but more is to come. Stay tuned.
Incredible, credible insights. Ask the questions that you might have. We're going to continue to layer the features of the app out to you throughout the rest of the year as to not to overwhelm you, but I would encourage you to start playing with it now, because you'd be amazed at how precise the information that you receive back that you get to it or get from it.
Then you can go back to the home screen.
So a handful of people have been testing it out, and just wanted to share with you what some of your peers have been saying about it. Megan Lugwood says there's a lot related to AI that I'm cautious about, but this was an example of many of how KW Milwaukee goes to Matt for its people without question, time and time again. For that, I'm incredibly grateful. Rinka said it's so intuitive. I don't think anything else has an app like this for their brokerage. Kathleen Gill wrote us yesterday in an email, and it's amazing the responses we've got from this. She said yesterday, I just wanted to say how great this app is and how useful it has already begun to me. As a somewhat newer agent, it is somewhat daunting to have to always call, email, text compliance, other teammates or team leads. This is such an easy, immediate way to get quality answers to the questions I have. It provides me with great examples on how to approach a given situation, and I feel secure using it versus the general chat tool, as I know it's been vetted by our compliance team and has the state of Wisconsin real estate specific answers. Thank you to the KW leadership for providing such a wonderful resource. Jordan Regat said, it gave me a great answer to a complicated question. I'm sold. Kim Gertis, I love how easy it is to get in to find what you need and get back to business. This is going to be a game changer. My encouragement to you is download the app. It'll be amazing the time efficiency it can give you within your business. I'll give you another example. Yesterday, we had an agent who asked the compliance team that they had a client who did not want to sign a disclosure form, and the agent put it within the app what to do. The app spit out, here are the 4 things you need to be paying attention to. Would you like the contractual language that you would like added to the contract so that your client signs off acknowledging that they choose not to disclose certain information? The agent said yes. The app spit out the language that was precise to a T, that was vetted by our legal counsel, and the agent had their answer within 30 seconds. So if you haven't jumped onto the app yet, now is the time, and feel free to download because it is available for both the Apple Store as well as the Android store. Cool? We'll be rolling out more features such as chat, feed, and a variety of other things that are built within the app, but we don't want to overwhelm you at once, as we want to get you comfortable using the app as we continue to roll out more features over the course of time. Sound good? Beautiful. All right. With that, I have Lieutenant Conard, who wants to talk a little bit around bump clauses and secondary offers. Lieutenant Steph? Maybe not. Oh, there you are, Steph.
Sorry, I was muted.
Here we go.
All right, it's been a minute then since we've been up here, so it's good to see you guys. All right, so first up, the GMAR dues. Just want to remind you guys, so look for an email sent on September 17th. Michelle Cohn sent it out with a link specific to yourselves to pay the GMAR dues. Once you do pay the GMAR dues, you do not need to send us verification that you have paid. We will be tracking that through the GMAR. We'll be getting real annoying about this probably the first week of December, though, by the way. So please just make sure that you are paying these, and a reminder that you will have a discount if you pay before the end of October 31st. And then Sunday the 30th is the last day to pay the dues amount listed in the emailed statement. And then after Monday the December 1st, a $50 late fee will apply. So please, we want to save you guys a little bit of money. Just get on that and pay it as soon as you can.
And if they don't pay it by the 31st, Steph, what happens?
MLS will
shut off your access.
Shut off your access, and then also levy, I believe, a $225 fine. So it's a lot. Then another reminder in regards to, can you back it up, Charlie? Excuse me. Oh yeah. So we're in an off year with the continuing education, so it's not due. Our classes are not due until 2026. You are free to take them at any time, though, of course. But again, just you don't need to have that on your radar quite yet. Then the DSPS license renewal, that will open up later this fall. This will be tracked, and I'll have more details for you once that online registration opens up. But we will ask that you guys send over your verification once you renew with the DSPS. So again, that will be forthcoming. So then just in terms of a compliance reminder, and this is your compliance team obsessing over details here. We just wanted to go over some reminders as it relates to the bump clause and secondary offers. So a couple weeks ago, we went over the home close contingency, the bump clause, and a secondary offer in our contract training, and went over how they all work with one another. So that training is uploaded to YouTube, of course, and you can access that at any time. But I really wanted to hone in on lines 342 and 343. So kind of to back it up here, again, a home close or a bump clause is attached to a home close contingency. The bump clause gives our sellers extra peace of mind in order to feel comfortable accepting an offer with a home close contingency, right? So it's a little risky for our sellers. You know, there's a big unknown there if that buyer is going to close on their primary residence. So that bump clause gives a little extra peace of mind. So in the event that the primary buyer were to get bumped, there are a few conditions here that the buyer has to satisfy in order to move forward. The biggest one being on line 338 here, the written waiver of the closing of buyer's property contingency. So that buyer communicating to the seller, yes, I will waive the home close contingency. But what we're seeing, and this is really what our message is here, what we're seeing is that lines 342 and 343 are not being checked, meaning that seller would want to see an extra insurance that the buyer can successfully close. So that looks like a proof of bridge loan financing or another proof of funds, and that's on line 343. So my message here really is to our listing agents. If we're going to accept an offer with a home close contingency, and we're going to include that bump clause, we also want to make sure that if that buyer does get served a bump notice, that they can also provide evidence that they can actually close, and they've verified that with their lender with that proof of bridge loan financing. So please, again, listing agents, just making sure that you guys are checking those boxes or countering back if they're not checked. So, and then just a reminder about the secondary offer. So a seller may accept as many secondary offers as they want, and they can move any one of those accepted secondary offers into primary position. So as a buyer's agent, if you get a secondary offer, you're going to want to communicate to the buyer as well, this is not a done deal. A seller can accept another secondary offer, and they can choose who they want to move into secondary or primary position. So again, it's just coaching those buyers, right sizing expectations. So that's a lot for compliance. But again, of course, please see us with these situational questions in terms of bump clauses and secondary offers. All right. And then remaining October contract training. So we went over the Addendum AC a couple weeks ago. Just went over the Addendum A yesterday. Then next up, next week, Monday, we're going to do the Addendum R, the Addendum O, and the Addendum S. I think this is a really good reminder for, again, our seasoned agents, not just our newbies. If you need help with the Addendum R or the Addendum O, please attend. And then on October 27th, Lindsay and I will be doing Compliance in Command, going over zip forms again, going over opportunities as well. So, John, what is your...
Sweet. It's back to me.
All
Thanks,
right.
Steph.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. All right. Here's where I'm finishing up with the market of the moment insights. I'm going to highlight a few things I talked about last week to make sure they're on your radar, but also to highlight some of the macro things that are going on within our environment to help alleviate any sort of worry or anxiety that you might have. But last week I talked to you a little bit around how typically from a seasonal perspective, we typically start to see new unit inventory start to go down. This year we had seen a little bit of an anomaly where new unit inventory bumped up from August to September. I think a lot of that had to do with the rate environment that we operated in, but you can see versus August of this year, we saw a 6% increase of new listing inventory that came to the market when we typically start to see the seasonal slowdown from a new inventory perspective. From a total inventory perspective, we are currently sitting at the highest amount of inventory we've had over the last 2 years consecutively. Lots of opportunity in the marketplace. Okay. And the units that are going under contract also similarly are bucking the seasonal trend where you would start to see a slowdown. And yet when you look at it versus August, we were effectively even. It was only off by 15 units. And so the feeling that I kind of shared with you is that while we typically start to feel the seasonal slowdown in September, and the comment I made in August is the market's cooling like the weather. That's not necessarily the case because we're having an Indian summer and our businesses might be having an Indian summer. And in a macro perspective, I sat through a presentation yesterday that looked across the entire U.S. housing market, and the entire U.S. housing market is feeling very similar trends too in terms of a very positive push from a fall perspective. My synopsis too, a lot of it has to do with, if you look at it, we had a significant rate drop in September of 2025 that I think is contributing to the environment that we're feeling and seeing this fall. Okay. And yet prices are continuing to appreciate. I shared this with you last week. Here's the what's winning data in terms of the 119 offers we looked at throughout the month of September. So you can identify it as you advise your clients in terms of what is winning based on the analytics and the data, going back to the 3x5 card that sits in your back pocket. The grocery store market of the moment script was live last week. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. Also available on the KW Realty MKE website, as well as I believe on the app. So feel free to utilize this as you see fit. Now, here was in yesterday's presentation that talked about the overall housing economy in the U.S. market. They touched on something that quite frankly, and I don't know if this is more naive of me or just wasn't me thinking about it, how it correlates to our business, was they touched on the government shutdown. And so I pulled a slide from there that I thought was relevant because it actually started to make me think, and it gave me actually good feelings, not creating a sense of anxiety as it relates to how it impacts our business. There's basically 6 things we need to be paying attention to. 1, the National Flood Insurance Program. No new policies are being issued. Expect delayed closings and case-by-case workarounds. I don't think that impacts us locally here in Milwaukee unless there is some outstanding things from what happened in the month of August. Fannie and Freddie Mac, no direct impact. Some may be indirectly affected by shutdowns at other agencies, but no real major Freddie or Fannie impacts. FHA continuing to endorse loans, so don't expect any delays there. The IRS not currently impacted by the government shutdown, although the potential furloughs of up to half the staff could slow income verification requests for some mortgage applications. Please be aware. New USDA loans are not being processed, and there's going to be a slow release of economic data due to the period of the shutdown. So not overly major news, but more so of things to be paying attention to as it relates to the impact of the shutdown if it had been on your radar. The second thing that I would share with you, and I've gotten this question relatively a lot, which I was actually somewhat surprised to because it didn't even register on my Richter scale. Although that's a lie. It did register on my Richter scale. I just didn't really care too much. Is, a lot of people have been asking me my opinion around the Compass acquires Anywhere forming a real estate conglomerate. If you don't know, Anywhere consists of Coldwell Banker, Century 21, Sotheby's, and a variety of other, I think 21 other brands. A lot of them locally here in Milwaukee. And some people have reached out and said, "What's your opinion on it?" I'm like, I don't care. And they're like, why don't you care? And I'm like, here's exactly my ethos to it. And this comes from a Forbes article that I read about Sarah Blakely, who ran Spanx for a long, long time. And then she sold it for like $3.2 billion. Okay. And this is the truth. I've never paid any attention to my competition. I just paid attention to my consumer. And when other companies make moves and people ask me my opinion, I'm like, good for them. Good for them. The reason to it is none of those other brands have anything to do with my business plan. Nothing. They have no impact on the way that we serve our associates or the way we think about how we attack our value proposition. And so I share that with you is because there might be a lot of noise and fodder within the Inman articles or the Housing Wire or whatever. And I'm like, good for them. Doesn't change what we're going to do. And we're going to continue to push the envelope of what's possible in Milwaukee. And that's really the only thing I care about. So I share that with you because I realized I'd never really touched on it, even though it was a seismic news day on a Monday several weeks ago. So there you go. There's my opinion. Cool. All right. Quick lore report for you. And Elena Zeman, I got to come pick up that hat. So the next time I do this in the month of October, or maybe November, I'm wearing the folklore hat as I read the lore report. But I'd share with you something pretty cool. I built this yesterday and I was like, holy shit. Here's the truth. Closed units in our industry. Anybody want to take a guess at what they are? Year to date through September? Flat. You want to know where we are as an environment in terms of a culture of productivity? Up 27%. Listings sold? Flat. We're up 27%. Listings taken units, again, these are the activities that you control and the environment you're a part of. But quite frankly, this shows you how you're outpacing in order to take more market share to build your businesses. Listings taken units across the industry, up 4%. We're up 20%. Listings taken volume in the industry is up 10% year to date through September. We're up 27%. And contracts written on the buy side up 0.5 point, and we're up 28%. Keep on keeping on, baby. You guys are killing it. Congrats. And by the way, this is inclusive of all locations in southeastern Wisconsin, right? That's how I look at it. I look at it as one ecosystem, not one location, one ecosystem. Lower report for you, top 10 brokerage brands through 2025 through the end of September. Here's where the group sits at roughly around 16% market share. Cool little story because I looked at this when I started this 9 years ago. We were just over 5% market share. That's pretty neat, pretty fun. And I've shared with you our associates from a culture of productivity outperform Southeastern Wisconsin averages by 112% on closed dollar volume per agent and over 80% of closed units per agent versus the industry averages in Southeastern Wisconsin in 2025. Pretty good. Pretty good. Here's the latest 12-month trends, so you can see it from a trends perspective. For our friends down in Kenosha and Walworth, I've included Kenosha and Walworth within this data as well for those of us that work a little bit further south. And this is what we would call the 7-county metro area. And then I always pull the luxury stats for the group, and these are homes sold above $1 million in southeastern Wisconsin. We have a 23.9% market share so far year to date in 2025. And here's some interesting insights for you to help you win more listings. KW Milwaukee sells 1 in every 4 luxury homes in southeastern Wisconsin in 2025. We sell 2.4x more than the second brand, and we sell them 25% faster than the industry average. Sign here. And here is your rolling 12-month trend as it relates to the luxury market share position within southeastern Wisconsin. Incredible, incredible stuff. Lastly, I shared this with you last week, and I think it's pretty cool, but our September profit share that will be dropped on October 21st will be $69,000, which will bring a year-to-date total of $627,000, which is up 7% versus 2024. The way that we measure output is also in GCI in terms of what is it that you are taking home for those that you are doing it for. And I know there was a lot of concern from an industry standpoint over the last 18 months around what that impact would be and how we're performing within that. You can see we've shared with you the data as it relates to the commission percentages. But in the month of September, we closed out $5.9 million in commissions paid. This is what I call our economic impact report. It was up 24% versus September of last year. And year to date, we've paid out $52.8 million in gross commission incomes earned, which is also a 24% increase versus 2024. So as Mrs. Doubtfire would say, nothing to see here, nothing to see. Mrs. Doubtfire was just at the Marcus Performing Arts Center, if you didn't know. Nothing to see, just 24% increase. So congrats. I use that as it's a good measure of output, and it speaks to the incredible culture of productivity that this group has. With that, I will fly through training and education, but I did be remiss if I didn't just ask you to save the date to what is likely the biggest event we host every year. And it's our 2025 holiday party. It's amazing the energy that is within that room. And it speaks to when you bring those that you care about and those that you do it for. And when you bring them into the room, they understand what you're a part of from a community standpoint. So this year, we are running it back again at the Pfister Hotel, the Pfister downtown. It will be on Thursday, December 4th. Thursday, December 4th. It is the first Thursday after Thanksgiving, because I recognize that the social calendars get relatively heavy as you get closer to the holiday season. And so we look forward to celebrating with you on Thursday, December 4th. New this year is we are sending you a personal invite to your homes because we want to engage also those that you do it with and do it for. And Bella and Courtney worked really hard to get those out, and those are actually currently in the mail, and you'll be receiving those to your homes this week. And you can RSVP via the QR code, and there will be a link within the invite, but save the date Thursday, December 4th. Cool? All right. With that, Bold's running on through the month of October. APHW has their Zoom around buyers' peace of mind, offsetting costs for repairs on the 15th at 11. We're hosting another Versity Blood Drive at the Southwest office on Tuesday, the 21st from 9 to 1:30. We had a great turnout last week in Prestige. This is the way that we can help impact our communities in a very simplistic way through a partnership with Versity and the Blood Center of Wisconsin. G Money, Gustavo is hosting a lunch and learn to next week, the 21st at 10:30 a.m. around a lunch and learn. Opportunity Knox is on the 30th. We moved it due to Cindy Kuss's memorial this week, Thursday, the 23rd, just as a reminder there. And lastly, I will leave you with, if you haven't downloaded the app yet, do so. And the top workplaces survey is out now. Guys, it's yeah, and November will be the 11th anniversary. 11th anniversary. All right, with that, North Shore crew, hang tight for 2 seconds, please. We'd just like to address the room for a second. The rest of the group in Milwaukee, the other 200 plus of you, you're free to have an amazing day. Awesome. Thanks, guys.